This is The Process Shot. I'm Michael. I'm stuck in a haunted movie theater, and I've seen Emergency, a new comedy drama thriller from Carey Williams, which isn't quite a comedy drama, but I'll get into that later. It follows two college roommates, Sean and Kunle, preparing to make university history that night by being the first black students to complete a legendary tour, hitting up 7 college parties in a single night. When they make it home to pregame, they find an unexpected guest, a young white girl passed out on their floor, with their other roommate Carlos completely unaware she was even there, even though he was in his bedroom. All too aware of how it would look to the cops if they saw 2 black men and 1 Latino guy with an unconscious woman, the 3 have to figure out what to do with her without causing any further suspicion or complication or harm. Usually hilarity would ensue, but not this time around. I can confidently say that I'm mixed about this movie. It frames itself as a dark comedy with dramatic thriller elements, but doesn't find the time for any strong moments of humor. The jokes are generally more situational or thematic, like dramatic irony, rather than something more outwardly comedic. It doesn't help that the film takes its time setting up the story for comedy antics, specifically in how it dedicates time to how the tour of the 7 parties is going to go, with an expectation that you'd see that being attempted despite the circumstances. Instead, the movie takes a completely different direction and lays more into a quieter dramedy from the start, with the thematic discussions and topics coming in hard and fast right away. It's a side of the story that the movie refuses to ignore, and is made prevalent in just about every scene in some way. It doesn't quite help that it trends towards a one-sided approach to these topics, even when it seems like things are developing towards some sort of balance. That may work in a more blatant comedy or satire, but it doesn't quite land here, mostly because of its more dramatic take, aiming at realism if not a serious approach. In any case, if there is anything that does give the film some high marks, it's the actual character performances themselves. The leads are all committed to their roles, Sean and Kunle especially, bolstered by a great amount of realistic dialogue and conversations. Other characters are a bit less defined, but their written voices are all still pretty unique, with a further sense of personality coming from even subtle lines of dialogue. It's pretty clear that some characters are meant to represent certain sides of the greater argument at hand, minor characters especially, but there is still enough in their scenes that build them up beyond simply fulfilling a role or representing an idea. The plotting may not be all there, and the tone may seem a little off, but this is pretty clearly a movie written more for the message than anything truly story-driven. Despite this focus, there's still some attention given to technical aspects, though it's not much. Cinematography is generally used practically to frame characters and settings for visual jokes, with rare instances of stylization, the most apparent being in a montage of the legendary tour and the different colleges to be visited. Pretty much every other cinematic choice is more practical as well. There is a good selection of licensed music tracks played throughout the film, but as you might guess, it's more of a playlist than anything more closely in line with the story events or themes. Color choices are also pretty natural, with a lot of blue tones, given how the movie is set at night. The aforementioned montage does have some neat color coding to its locations, but this just kind of cements the rest of the film as being a dramedy over comedy drama, in that the montage is an exception to the rules, so to speak. Anyways, there are also a few editing mistakes and oversights here and there, again adding to the notion of where the film's focus is overall. For all of the attention put into its presentation and ideas, Emergency seems to be torn between wanting to be satirical and wanting to be serious. The story does try to have it both ways through its writing choices, but isn't actually able to balance a true sense of comedy with the heavier dramatic tone and story events. The dialogue and performances do keep things enthralling. The themes are certainly important, and the finale of the movie also hammers in the point pretty hard. But I think that it probably could have gone further in one tonal direction over the other, while still being able to get those greater ideas across to the audience. Emergency. Carey Williams, 2022. 2.5 stars. If you're looking for a dramedy, go ahead and watch it. Otherwise, I wouldn't really recommend it. There's bound to be something else out there that hits on these themes with a lighter tone. That's it for me. If you like this review, leave a like. If you have something to add, leave a comment. Subscribe to the channel for more reviews. I do think the movie has a great grasp on how people talk. The problem is that it just seems not to know how people should act. At least the story seems to move forward on the idea that the wrong decisions are made at the worst times.